Finally! After 20 long years, I've got the entire family of Marvel games on the NES here together in one place. What a fantastic looking family too. Nothing can ruin this day now.
Think again, Irate gamer.
What? No! No! Oh no! My Marvel family is dead! Except for the Punisher. I must get revenge, just like the Punisher did. Let's do this! Today's episode is brought to you by My Arcade, which brings to you these arcade classics to your tabletop. Especially when it comes to their two newest arcades, Contra and Space Invaders, which are just like their arcade counterparts, right down to the Space Invaders Classic, where it even has the double screens, just like the original. Make sure you check out My Arcade to bring all those arcade classics to your tabletop. Well, the Avengers have certainly gained the spotlight over the years, but move over, guys, because it's time to check out The Punisher. And with Netflix and their merry band of B-list superhero shows brought to life,
what kind of name is the Devil of Hell's Kitchen anyway?
More people now than ever know who Frank Castle and the Punisher is, more than ever. Now, the character of the Punisher was first created in 1974 by a guy named Jerry Conway, and the first time that the Punisher actually appeared was in the issue of Spider-Man as one of his adversaries. And after his first appearance, well, he gained a pretty large following shortly thereafter. And believe it or not, the Punisher here was actually the first Marvel character to get his own film adaptation. And that film debuted on the big screen in 1989, which was self-entitled as The Punisher. And when I say debuted, I mean the writers took the screenplay to this thing, wiped their own ass with it, and then used the shit stains to connect the dots and make their script with that.
Now let me tell you something about this Punisher, whoever he is. If he ever shows up within 1,000 yards of me, he'll find out what the word punished really means.
Pathetic. So yeah, the Punisher was off to a pretty rocky start, but thankfully the character was given a little bit more room to grow over the years, with another Hollywood movie, a couple of video games, as well as his own series on Netflix. So yep, there's certainly a lot of love for this character now, and it's kind of cool to see because back in the 1980s, well, it wasn't that way. I remember actually picking up these comics in the 80s and reading them, and it wasn't your typical comic book character. You know, I was into Ninja Turtles and Uncle Scrooge and the Harvey comics, so for me to pick up the Punisher, it was really against the grain from all that stuff, but I was like, wow, there's something really cool about this character because he's going around slinging a gun and just killing everything that moves. It was kind of wild. So yeah, to see this character getting a really big push now is great. And even though every film appearance of the Punisher is either hit or miss, well, the same thing could be said about the games here. So for this review, well, we're going to be checking out all the Punisher games and seeing which one is the best. And we'll just go ahead and start off this review by reviewing the NES version, which, wait a minute, Batman. We can't mix universes, get out of here. So at the startup screen here, we have 3 different game options to choose from, with this guy's ugly mug staring back at us from the first screen of the game. Ugh, ugly bastard. Well, I guess we'll try to kill him first because, well, he just looks like an evil piece of shit. So during this first level, well, we see that this game takes on the form of an on-rails arcade shooter. And this is a game genre which only a handful exist on the NES. And if you ask me, it is tailor-made for a character like the Punisher. The premise here is simple. Play as Frank Castle, who is a detective in this version, instead of a Vietnam War veteran like in the comics, and you'll have to go through this slow, side-scrolling adventure, blasting the shit out of anything that walks, including dive bombers, drug dealers, and more by shooting them or launching grenades at them. Alright, fire in the hole, asshole! And just like with any other shoot-'em-up game, you'll be able to shoot up all kinds of power-ups to increase your arsenal. Hell yeah! And oddly enough, sitting right beside all your arsenal icons is the game prominently reminding you that you're playing the game Punisher, just in case you forget what the hell you're actually playing here. Because God forbid we might actually think we're playing Paperboy for a second here. Yeah, like that's actually gonna happen. Now I'm sure you're probably just waiting for me to unrelentlessly shit all over this game, but nope, not gonna happen. Because the game Punisher isn't all that bad. And hell, saying that for a game made by LGN, who were also the premier guys behind making Thundercats into an action figure line in the 1980s, says a lot. Now throughout this side-scrolling adventure, I do have some burning questions here. What the hell is Frank Castle standing on anyway? Because on the first stage here, this dude just hovers past oceanside docks, water, out into the ocean. Yeah, just float on by there, buddy. And where the hell are we going now? Is that Alcatraz? How the hell did Frank Castle shoot his way into a maximum security prison just to take down the bad guys? He must be packing some serious shit in that artillery belt to get past that arsenal. Either that, or the thing he's floating on has magical powers to get you in anywhere. Wait a minute, what's this? We now find ourselves in Super Mario? Hell yeah, time to take down those Goombas! Now another thing I want to mention about this game is, where the hell's all the background music at? Now, I like the sound of gunfire as much as the next guy, but at least give me a music track to bust a cap in these guys with. I'm not sure why there's no music in this game, but I'm sure the game developers must have saved a fortune by cutting all those musical production costs. In fact, the only thing to break the monotony of this background noise is this saxophone player here, who for some reason is playing in the middle of a firefight. Damn, talk about dedication. I'd give him a tip, but yeah, I think I left it in my other artillery belt. Alright, so now we find ourselves entering into a bonus stage in this game. And you know what? My skills can use some honing, so let's get down to business. So, what are they having me do here? Pummel a tied up drug dealer until the timer runs out? What the hell is up with that? This is a bonus stage? Looks like the same damn level I was just in. Here I am getting ready to shoot some balloons or some shit. And this is what the game gives us as a bonus stage. Oh boy, this is like the game developers were saying, you want a bonus stage? Well, too bad. We're gonna give you the same thing that the 1980s Punisher movie gave you. A bunch of shit. Well, at least killing the ending boss here will make up for it. Yeah, rest in peace, you ugly fuck. And once getting to the next level, well, it's back to more side-scrolling shooting action. Yep, time to float on by these other levels and do everything we already just did 5 times over. Well, at least the bosses in each level come exactly from the comics, because they give us Colonel Klieg, Hitman, Saijo, Assassin, Kingpin. Yep, they're all here. And the degree of difficulty on these guys ranges from spraying bullets at your ass, trying to slice up your ass, and hey, just stand there while I'll shoot at your ass. And that's just great, because all this ass play going on, I'm down to my last roll of toilet paper. Ah! Ah! Okay, so that guy was pretty easy, but as for the other guys, well, they get pretty tough, and a little consistency here would have been great. Now this guy should have been a damn boss. Get out of here! But if you're able to reach the end, and that may be a long shot here, but let's just say you do, you'll receive one lame-ass ending where the Punisher tells you the streets are safe once again before making some ominous Batman-like pose. Oh man, the brooding is so thick in here I could cut it with a knife. Or in the Punisher's case, shoot it with an AK-47. Well anyway, when it comes to the NES version of the Punisher, well, it's definitely not the definitive version that I want to play. Especially since game developer LGN was at the helm. And as you know, they also had a hand in X-Men, Spider-Man, Wolverine. You know how it goes. Now I'm sure all you guys are thinking, hey, wait a minute, Irate Gamer. What if I want to play a Punisher game while on the way to anger management class from playing the NES version? Well, don't worry, because we've got a Gameboy version for that, which is called the Punisher Ultimate Payback. Now this game could almost pass as a Game Boy port of the NES game, but one thing that's different is the game's intro, because the storyline in this game seems to be more impressive than the NES version. So how the hell did that happen? Shouldn't the NES's version be superior to this one? Because the NES game jumps from the logo to Frank's face, then to the game. In the Game Boy version, well, you'll get a whole damn rundown of the story, then it jumps into a cameo of Spider-Man? Spider-Man? How the hell did the Game Boy version get Spider-Man? Whoa, somebody call 911. I've been robbed again. Wow, and just look at this cool storyline. Spider-Man tells me he needs help rounding up terrorists at the mall, and I'm the one that needs to put a stop to it. Wait a minute. Spider-Man does know who he's talking to, right? So he wants the Punisher, who shoots to kill, to help him out. Is Spider-Man looking for a bloodbath here or what? Well, despite this crazy alliance, I have to say this game and level is pretty darn decent. You go around in the shopping mall here and shoot everything on the screen. Yeah, take that 50% off sale and shove it up your ass, Macy's. End up finishing this job, and Spider-Man will come back to you to give you even more orders That'll help him clean up the city. And of course my question is, since when did Frank Castle take orders from anyone, especially Spider-Man? And telling me to shoot up a mall full of innocent shoppers? This is not the helping the elderly across the street Peter Parker that I know. Now yeah, both the NES and Game Boy versions are a good way to pass the time, but if you want a more definitive version of the Punisher to play in video game form, then might I suggest the arcade version? Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about. And this game has it all. Flashy intro, a great story, fantastic graphics, and a beat-em-up gameplay style that fits the character beautifully. Oh man, I'm so happy I'm about to bust a cap in these guys. Haha, take that. Talk about doing fan service to the character. This video game becomes one incredible ride for just 25 cents a game. And thankfully, if you want to replicate this experience at home, then might I suggest the Sega Genesis version of the Punisher, which is a direct port of that arcade version. For all you Nintendo purists out there, well, looks like Sega's got the drop on you this time. Because if you want that arcade Punisher experience at home, well, Sega's got you covered. And this game is light years better than its Nintendo predecessor. And this is one of the first beat-em-ups that I've seen double as a shooter game. Now the story is as basic as they come. The Punisher slaughters wave after wave of criminal scum to get to Kingpin. And unlike the first Nintendo game, this one is a co-op. Well, that's refreshing. So not only can you play as the Punisher, but a friend can also take on the role of Nick Fury, who looks a little different from his movie counterpart. Must be the haircut. So now if we show the arcade version side by side to the Sega Genesis version, well, we see some sacrifices had to be made to bring this to your friendly neighborhood home console. Because all the elements of the arcade game couldn't be carried over to the Sega port because of software limitations, but I do find that both games can be superior in their own ways. Yes, I know a plethora of features were left out of the Sega Genesis port, and you can tell that right off from the game's intro. Oh man, they left that out too? And as for the graphics, well, some of these areas might look like the developers took the arcade version and scripted the shit out of this thing with a cheese grater. Sega also had a couple issues with censorship and removed that cigar from Nick Fury's mouth, toned those female ninjas down so they're no longer trying to look like they're getting demonetized, and they removed a lot of blood and gore and guts as well. And of course, gore being removed from a Punisher game? Boy, that's irony if I ever heard it. But besides those minuscule issues, this one is a pretty good solid game. And gets the Irate Gamer seal of not being ass. Now after that Sega port was released, well, the Punisher scene remained dormant for 11 years, besides a couple of animated appearances and a 2004 movie. But all that changed in 2005 when Deep Silver Volition released the Punisher for the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and PC. And the gameplay on this one is sort of a mix between Gears of War and Manhunt, because this one does actually make you feel like you're playing as the Punisher. One second I'm slicing a man's stomach open with a knife, and the next I'm hanging a drug dealer out the window to impale him with the broken glass. So yep, you could say they really went all out with this game, especially in terms of that violent factor, because this game almost received an adults only rating from the ESERB system. So yep, you know it's pretty bad when your game makes Rockstar Games look like daycare. And another cool feature about this game is that starring alongside Punisher, well, we have familiar faces like Nick Fury, Black Widow, Daredevil, and hey, Tony Stark, Iron Man. Well, isn't this a surprise?
I need a drink.
And after playing all these mediocre Punisher games, I'm right there beside you there, Tony. Now there was one last video game they made called Punisher No Mercy, but I heard these games were so bad that to experience this mediocre bowl of excrement for myself is far worse than any punishment that the Punisher dishes out on the bad guys. Who the hell wants to play a game like that? So in the end, it looks like we finally found our worst Punisher game, as well as the best. So if you want to play the best, head to your nearest arcade and... You asshole, get back here!
I need a drink.